Hello everyone, we are back for the breakdown on the United Spotlight, and today it's kicked me off into an early video before I go play football. It's where I've got my skins on. So I'm talking to a couple of my mates on WhatsApp about yesterday's game and what we think about the club. So if you hear WhatsApp going off in the background, that is because I'm deep in conversation with the boys. But again, I'm not going to talk about the result. We all know it's horrendous. Quickly on the game, the first half was absolutely diabolical. Like, we should have been 3, 4, 5 goals down. Absolutely horrific. I don't know how anybody thinks this team can be consistent. We always get we win a game versus Liverpool, or we get a half decent result somewhere. People think it's a bounce back and we're going to be any good. We're not. We cannot string 2 games together to save our lives. I mean, I've got some stats on the screen here again. 20 shots conceded against Bournemouth. Again, it's absolutely pathetic, isn't it? 20 shots, yeah, only 5 on target. Near enough 50-50 possession. You know, but I mean, just on that game, we've had 2 shots on target, I think they're saying here. One's a penalty, which was I know we've had soft penalties given against us recently, but the ball has hit him up there from a deflection or whatever from another player. I cannot actually believe VAR and turned it around and said it's not a pen. It's just, I mean, we've got so lucky getting that penalty. And then the other one is bouncing around in the 6-yard box and it falls to Bruno and he smashes it in. We haven't created a single chance. And forget creating chances for Højlund. We haven't created a chance for anybody. A winger, a midfielder. We haven't even created a header or anything off a corner or nothing. There's no serious chances created. And Bournemouth have had 5 shots on target. Probably another 5 of those hit the post or went wide by about a yard. They've absolutely battered us yesterday. It's absolutely disgusting. Another away game against a so-called lesser side, and we are getting demolished. It's absolutely pathetic. But I'm going to get into Ten Hag straight away because I'm sure anybody watching this and watching me has seen other big channels, and there's a certain very, very, very large channel who's been Eric Ten Hag in loyally and creating this, what I think is an agenda where they keep saying if we sack Ten Hag, you're getting Southgate, which I think is a load of bollocks. But even he is now coming around to think, what on earth is Eric Ten Hag doing? And it's indefendable. And I've said it on all my previous videos. I don't want to. How can we've gone into another game wide open in midfield. You're starting Rashford again. You're starting Bruno again. You've got Mount on the bench. You've got Eriksen on the bench. You've got even Amrabat. Even though Amrabat's crap, he cannot be any worse than Casemiro is at the minute. And you're still going into those games playing an 18-year-old kid in Mainu who should be gently weaned into the side again. He shouldn't be playing week in, week out, the same as Højlund shouldn't be. You're playing Casemiro, who looks like me running down the Sunday League pitch in about an hour's time, 2 miles an hour, because I'm too old and past it. And you've got Bruno, who again, yes, he scored 2 goals, and he maybe was our best player today. But he still wasn't good, was he? We're drawing 2-2 with Bournemouth and he scored a tap-in and a penalty. He's still all over the place. His passing's still erratic. You know, like we always say, the goal, anybody can score the goals, but you've got to work as a team to beat teams. And today, we are absolutely all over the place again in midfield. I mean, for the first half, I didn't even realise Casemiro was playing. And I absolutely hate to say it about Casemiro because I absolutely love the guy. But I'm afraid before he absolutely ruins any legacy he's got anywhere in the world, he needs to leave. Mainu, like I say, needs to be given minutes in games and managed, not thrown into every single game we ever play. And just on the midfield, we've got Casemiro with no legs, and people say Eriksen's got no legs. At least Eriksen can get hold of the ball and pass it and calm the game down. You've got Mount on the bench, who, whether you put him on the right or the left, or you take him off for Bruno, he knows how to keep the ball, and he's got a lot of energy. And then you've got Amrabat, who could probably do the donkey work that Casemiro was doing, but probably more effectively, even though I think he's crap as well. The midfield is a disgrace, and it's on Ten Hag. I don't understand how he can carry on. He must be doing two things, and he's continually trying to play this way to prove the board and everyone that these players aren't good enough, and hope that they see that and keep him and let him change, or he's absolutely stubborn and he don't care about the result or what happens because he's so set in his ways and his plays and what he wants to do, and never mind the result, he will just do it. I mean, there's actually three, he's doing it and he don't care what the results are, and he knows he's getting the sack, so he's just going to go down on his sword, a bit like Ranić did. But it's inexcusable. I mean, you're playing Rashford for what was it, for the full 90 again? You're taking Garnacho off at half time, and yes, he had an absolute stinker that first half. But to me, how many stinkers has Rashford had and stayed on the pitch? At least Garnacho's work rate is there, his willingness to try, and I'm no advocate of just pure trying. You need to be good as well. But Rashford does neither. He's neither good or tries. He was absolutely pathetic again today. Useless. Dalot, and just on Dalot, everyone will slate Dalot for being out of position and getting done down that side. One, Garnacho ain't tracking back to help him. Two, he has been told by Erik Ten Hag to play inverted. So basically, we're playing without a winger who won't track back, and we're playing with an inverted right back on the manager's instructions. So we've got no right back, and that's where they're targeted. And it took him nearly all game to realise that and take Garnacho off and make Dalot stay more to the right. I mean, you could see it within 10 minutes, it wasn't working. How can you play inverted fullbacks when we can't keep the ball for more than 10 seconds? Look what City do with inverted fullbacks. It's because they can retain possession. Sometimes John Stones is a centre-back playing as like a number 8 and number 10 because he knows for a fact that they're not going to lose the ball. So how can Ten Hag look at us and think we're going to keep the ball for more than 2 seconds and then have Dalot going into midfield? It's not on Dalot. It is on Ten Hag. The whole midfield setup, the whole inverted wingers thing is on him. It is horrendous. Am I Ten Hag out? You probably know if you watched any of these videos before that I am pretty much him out. I've been clinging on to some hope, but after this last week, yeah, I'm Ten Hag out, and I think you've got to go get Nagelsmann while he's available now. So whether he goes tomorrow or he goes in the summer, I'm not bothered. But I will stand by the fact that I'm getting on to players a bit, that if we are resetting this cycle with Ineos again, they're fresh in, they're doing what they're doing above the manager. And I don't think there's a lot of people out there saying Ineos are to blame for this. Ineos haven't done enough. They're pissing around with Ashworth and all that lot. Yeah, fine, but they've only been here since January. They can't change the on-pitch stuff. The on-pitch stuff has got nothing to do with them. They're doing what everybody wanted them to do before they changed the on-field stuff, and that was change the structure. And you cannot say they're not doing that. Whether they get Ashworth by the summer or not, you're telling me he's not going to have somebody feeding him information on the side, and it don't matter. Murto's gone, Arnold's gone. We've got Barada, Ashworth, Wilcox, Brailsford, all them lot in. You're telling me that because Dan Ashworth's on garden leave, the messages are not going to get to United? Just Forget it. He doesn't have to be in Old Trafford to tell somebody to go sign somebody from somewhere. He don't even have to tell United direct. He'll have contacts and he'll be telling people to tell so and so, to tell so and so, to tell so and so at United that this is who we need to buy. His garden leave does not matter. His message will get to us. But you cannot. The players, if we are, I think Ten Hag needs to go. But I will say this to Ineos, and they're not going to be listening, obviously. But anyone out there who's listening, if you're getting rid of Ten Hag, you must get rid of Marcus Rashford. Because he clearly is too egotistical in that dressing room and he's dragging everyone else down. He's going out doing interviews, how he's a Manchester boy, he loves the club and all that. Then you see him walking around. In the last video, I'll give him a bit of slack. I'll give him a bit of slack and say that he's probably told to stay up front and not defend. I can understand that. We're using for a counter. He's told to stay up front. Fine. I can understand him not pegging it back to defend. But when he's in the press and when the ball's in and around 10, 20 yards of him, he don't work. And that's the biggest thing for me. If you look at Højlund, and I have my reservations with Højlund, he shouldn't be playing week in, week out either. I don't think he's good enough to be starting up front every week for Man United. He should be a development striker who is on the bench, playing some Carabao Cup games, starting games here and there behind a proper striker, which is why I'm absolutely on board with if Ivan Toney is available 30, 40 million, you buy him. Who in this world as a striker for 30 to 40, even 50 million is anywhere near as good as Toney? And by the time Toney's 3-year deal's up, Højlund's in his mid-20s prime. And he'd been playing behind Toney. He had 3 more years of development. Development doesn't come from playing week in, week out in a team that don't work for you. Development comes from training week in, week out with top quality coaches and other people to teach you how to do it. He's going out there on his own and hoping something happens. But back on the Rashford point, because I went off topic again there. I mean, Rashford, to me, gone. Sell him. Anything. If somebody walked through the door with 40 million quid, get rid of him. People holding on to the hat that he's worth 80, 90, 100 million. Forget about the money. It's not your money. It's the club's money. We've got Ineos. The FFP rules are changing so we can spend more money. The money doesn't matter. What's more important is getting him out of the club. Because as much as he says he cares and he's a Manchester boy and all this lot, he clearly don't, does he? I mean, let's face it. Or in his mind, he probably thinks he does, but on the pitch, he doesn't show it. And I'll say it again. Forget the Maguires, the McTominays, them lot. They take care of themselves over the next season or two. They'll be gone. The problem is people like Marcus Rashford won't be. And the team will be carry on to be built around players like them who are not good enough. At least McTominay, Maguire, even Bruno, I'll put in this extent, the work rate is there, the endeavour's there, they're not a problem in the change room, the egos aren't out of control. They're there to do a job for the team. If they're good enough, it's another matter. The problem with Rashford is he's not good enough and he drags the whole rest of the squad down with him. On Garnacho, again, I've said it in the other videos, I think he's a prospect. Again, shouldn't be playing every minute of every game. So I think he's played 30-odd games in a row. It's too many. He should not be playing 30-odd games in a row at 19. I don't care how good you think he is. He should not be doing it. He should be in and out the team, maybe a midweek game out of the weekend, comes on a sub. And it's the same for Højlund, it's the same for Mainu. All them youngsters should not be doing 90 minutes per game, week in, week out. And there's people praising Ten Hag for how he's brought loads of the youth through. Yeah, he has. But you bring the youth through and they get half an hour here, half an hour there. They might get a full game in the Carabao Cup and earlier rounds of the FA Cup. Maybe they get a start in the Premier League here and there. They shouldn't. And people say injuries. I was watching a different video from Adam, who used to be on the United stand from Forever United TV, and he was going through how many games we've really been affected by injury. And most of the games we've played this year, we've had probably 9 out of 11 starters. The injury crisis, yes, we maybe hadn't had a bench to change things, but Ten Hag wouldn't have changed things from the bench anyway, would he? Let's face it. The injury crisis, yes, it always affects teams' injuries. There's no doubt about that. But it shouldn't be completely meaning that we're a mid-table team just because we've got a couple of people out here and there. They still all play for Man United. Don't care whether you think the squad players are good enough or not. They're still playing for Man United. They should be in a system. They should be able to do a job when they come on. Thinks to the likes of John O'Shea, Phil Neville, Park, Ji Sung, and how important Roy Keane said that those people who sat on the bench and used when they were needed were to the team and the winning team. Those players, they don't get used for one, and for two, they're not good enough. But, and I think I haven't actually seen the tweets and that properly, but I've heard a lot of stuff's come out of Eric Ten Hag's after game conference yesterday where he's blaming Højlund and Garnacho for the goal. Well, I think Højlund's chest down to Garnacho was fine and Garnacho's touch was horrendous. And then Solanke's left Kambawala in a heap on the floor. It's 3 youth players. Kambawala's been chucked in at the deep end. It's not his fault. He's doing a favour for us all. He's looked good in other games. You can't blame him. And you can't really blame... Garnacho's touch was horrendous. But again, like I've just said, he shouldn't be playing every game. 30 games in a row, fatigued, 19-year-old. He'll be burnt out by the time he's 25. But to blame him after the game, and this is what I want to get onto now with then another point on Rashford. To blame them two after the game for that, when Bruno Fernandes, the captain, has been crap, apart from scoring his 2 tap-ins, and Marcus Rashford stood out on the left-hand side and basically ain't got past a jog the entire game, when he's being allowed to go out on the piss in Belfast and miss games and training. He's been allowed back in the team because he's apologised. He's going on frigging the internet and doing sob story interviews when his performances are pathetic and he's on over 300 grand a week. And the other thing I'll have a go at Ten Hag about is he outed Cristiano Ronaldo for actions like Rashford's done, missing training, being late, kicking off on the touchline because he got subbed. Those types of misdemeanours are nowhere near as big as what Rashford's done, and Rashford's still playing week in, week out. Also, you could even bring Sancho into that. He's fully fallen out with Sancho, not in the squad, loaned out. Whether you think Sancho's attitude or not is one that should be playing for Man United, which I don't, but you cannot argue at this moment in time that Sancho probably feels hard done by. He had Anthony playing week in, week out in front of him who can't kick a ball straight. And then you've got Marcus Rashford, who's allowed to do whatever he wants around that club, by the looks of it, and still play 90 minutes every single week. It comes to a point where you've got to look at how the manager's treating these players to me, because as much as I think we need to get rid of Sancho, and he's based on his football over the last 3 years, it hasn't been good enough, let alone everything else. You cannot treat Sancho like you've treated Sancho and then allow Rashford to get away with the performances and the off-field stuff that he's got away with. People always say, like, he's got something in his contract where he's got to play. He's got something in his contract where he's got this, that, or the other Rashford. And I just never believed it. I was like, surely as a player, you can't dictate your minutes and stuff. But has he got something in there that he says he's got to play a certain amount of games or minutes? Because just play him all the time. And like Anthony over the last couple of games, he's actually looked all right. And then he played the Chelsea game and was good, Anthony. And then he said Anthony was tired and we've not seen him again since. We're playing 1 game a week. He's a professional footballer. Of course he's not tired. He's been injured and out half the season. He's not tired. It's excuses. Excuse Ten Hag. excuse injuries, blaming youngsters, tactics horrendous. And then let's get on to the big factor here. We all wanted Ollie out. Why? Terrible football, losing big, and the worst points tally in Premier League history for Man United. Well, let me tell you something. Eric Ten Hag is going to have the most losses in a Premier League season of any Man United manager. He's on for potentially the worst points total by the end of this season of any Man United manager. We're still playing horrific, terrible football, which I know we got battered sometimes under Ollie, but at least we had a plan that was counter-attack. This team, they ain't got a plan whatsoever. None. It is absolutely horrendous. So, tell me down in the comments, wherever, what you think. Are you Eric Ten Hag in, or are you Eric Ten Hag out after the last week? 1 win in 7 games after before the international break. Everyone thought we were going to get in the Champions League again because we'd won a game or two. Delusional. We're never getting in that Champions League. We'll be lucky to get the Conference League. And at that point, when you're going to get the Conference League, we should just throw a couple of games and come 9th. Because who wants to be in the Conference League? It's not worth it. Not for the position we're in as a club and the rebuild we need. We do not need to be going away to minnows in Europe in midweek. So if we're not going to finish in the Europa League, we need to throw the rest of the season. And I know that is a horrendous thing to say, but we do not want to be in that Conference League. And if we are, you need to be sending all the non-playing youth players to these games. And if they get through, they get through. If not, because it's just not worth it, is it? The Europa League's barely worth it now with the new Champions League format. None of the Champions League teams come out into the Europa League anymore. It's lost its spark. It's going to lose its value from next year, the Europa League. We had to be in the first year of the new format of the Champions League, and we're not going to be in it. With more teams in it as well. 5 teams allowed from England, and we're not going to be in it. It's absolutely pathetic. Eric Ten Hag out the Champions League before Christmas. There's another. Eric being out the Champions League before Christmas is a sackable offence in itself, let alone what's happened before. So that is my theory on United and what's happened over this weekend and the breakdown. If you like the video, hit the like, favourite and subscribe. And I will see you on the video next week.